New intro, new episode here with the Field of 68 mid-major show. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Paul, joined by my co-host Brian Burton. Brian, how you doing so far? We're a couple weeks into the college basketball season. It's the first time we're talking since the season started on this podcast. So, what are you doing so far here?
I'm good, man. It's almost Thanksgiving. Feast week is here. College basketball is in full swing. We've had a ton of upsets, a ton of high level play, some surprises already. So, yeah, it's nothing like hoop season, man. How about yourself?
It's always good to flip on those late night games. You're looking like 9 o'clock at night here on the West Coast, to midnight on the East Coast. Nothing like a little bit of hoops to round out your night. There really isn't. It just hits different.
No doubt, no doubt. Basketball season always does. What's one of your favorite? Let's talk themes real quick before we get into our top 25. What's one of your favorite themes of this basketball season so far?
I mean, it's got to be the Ivy League. You look at what this league has looked like so far, coming off a season and where a team made the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed, that being Princeton. That team lost Tosan Iwoma, who, if you know me, you know I'm a Tosan guy. And then you lose Ryan Langborg, who transferred. You lose Keyshawn Kellman. Those were three of the five starters that started for Princeton against Arizona, Missouri, Creighton in the NCAA tournament last year, and they replaced him with three guys who were with the program last year because you're not really adding transfers in the Ivy League.
Right.
Matalako, Xavier Lee, Caden Pierce. Two of those guys played big roles. Lee didn't play much last year. And now those three have formed a trio that could really rival what this team had last year. They're solid defensively, they're great offensively. And honestly, the biggest thing to me about Princeton is the way that they play. They completely change the style that they play to a more guard oriented scheme because last year Tosan ran everything. He was your point center. Now you
Right.
have two guards that can run the show. And that, I mean, you were a coach. How hard is that to adjust everything in one season like that?
I mean, it's extremely hard. It's what the great ones can do, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make it easy. I mean, you want to always design your offense around your personnel, and depending on what your personnel is, sometimes you may have a great big, sometimes you may have better guards. So it's
Right.
a credit for them to do it this fast and this well.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've already been one of the better mid-major teams in the country, which we'll talk about on the poll.
Yeah, absolutely. And just round out final thoughts here in the Ivy League. Harvard pulling out a big win the other day over UMass, an in-state upset win. Cornell's had a couple solid wins. Yale, they lost to Maryland Eastern Shore the other day, but overall they've been very impressive. Or no, Penn lost to Maryland Eastern Shore. My bad there. Yale's been really impressive though. They played a good MTE. I have a name that I want to talk about a little bit later there, but Penn's been really good. Tyler Perkins looks like one of the better guards in the Ivy League. And then you have Columbia that's even been pretty solid so far, despite having really low expectations. They went and beat Temple. Like that's not even though Temple's not what they used to be. Going and beating Temple and Philly is no easy feat.
And going back to Penn beat Villanova, which was
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
biggest wins of the season so far.
11.5 point underdogs Penn was in that game, and they went and beat their rival. Like that, the Ivy League is just so deep. Even the bottom tier teams, like a Columbia, like a Dartmouth, on any given night, those teams are so well coached and they have so much talent to where you can go win a game against a team like a Villanova, a team like a Temple. And kind of what it comes down to is a lot of these schools are able to recruit high level guys who are fringe high major talents, and then once they get their degree, some of them end up transferring. I mean, we've seen it plenty of times with a lot more of the COVID years, so it's happening less now. But you look at a guy like Makai Mason, who was at Yale like 5, 6, 7 years ago, goes and beats Baylor in the NCAA tournament with Yale. Then he transfers to Baylor for his grad year and then leads Baylor to the NCAA tournament. Like they have legitimate high major dudes on these teams. They're not just some random dudes. They have legit dudes.
I think some of the benefit, like you just talked about, is that now because so many teams are recruiting in the portal, they can get a different level of high school
Mm-hmm.
player
Yep,
because high school players just
100%.
aren't getting recruited right now the same rate. So since that's their primary feeding ground, it actually benefits them. Now they may be a little bit younger, and some of those guys, like you talked about, that didn't play a year before, may make a big jump in the next year because they were talented playing behind some older guys. But I do think that has something to do with it. I love the Ivy League talk. I'll say I just love the parity and the competition. I love the fact that, NIL has taken a lot of the headlines along with the transfer portal. So it feels like some of the mid-major basketball is going to be dead. Obviously, we heard about the NIT and what they're doing, and no one can be happy about that for college basketball. So just the fact that when the season starts and the ball goes up, there's so much unpredictability really on any given night. I mean, there's high-level teams. We talked about Penn getting that win against Villanova. You have Bryant getting the win against FAU, beating the top 10 team. Arkansas goes down earlier this week to UNCG.
Jackson State.
Jackson State just beat Missouri today. There was
22
one other one.
underdog.
Irvine had a big top 25 win. There's just been, obviously JMU started the season and they're in top 25 now because of what they did to Michigan State. So I just love the fact that despite all the stuff that's going on and all the craziness that feels like the rich are going to get richer, that the mid-major teams and the parity in general is at a high level. So that's the part about college basketball you love. I think every roster, you can flip a roster a lot quicker now than you ever could because you can get older players, whether that means that player wasn't playing and he's just talented and he resurfaces or whatever the scenario is, or if it's a lower level player that maybe is coming from a Division II or Division III. There's been so many teams that just pop up and you're like, wait a minute, they weren't supposed to be good. And now teams are able to have a chance. So I love that part about the season so far. It's unpredictable and you never really know. And I think that part has been one of the great surprises. But as we love to talk about the most, we'll get into the top 25. We'll make some room for our middle guest that's coming in here on your screen. Wink, wink. Sean, make some room.
Yep, there we go.
Yes, here is our new Cinderella top 25. We're excited about week 3. We're going into week 3. This is from week 2, but I'll let you dive into it.
Yeah, Kyler Road right there joining us on the podcast, even though he's not actually here. He's here in picture form, and that's all that matters. But James Madison coming in at number 1 in the poll. Obviously, they've been fantastic to start the year. You have the win opening night against Michigan State. Then you go and beat Kent State. They are number 1. And then Liberty is number 2. We'll talk about both these teams more in length. But Liberty, number 43 in KenPom right now, ahead of Kansas State, Texas Tech. We're talking about teams from the best conference in college basketball in the Big 12. Liberty's ahead of some of those teams. Drake, Akron, Grand Canyon, Bradley. And then at 7, the team I want to ask you about a little bit is Vermont. Yeah. They had a really good showing in the MTE over there in the Charleston Classic. They trailed Charleston by 15 in the second half. They were able to come back. Then they were able to compete against Liberty, who obviously won the Charleston Classic title over there, or Myrtle Beach title. And then they go 2-1 in the tournament overall. I saw a lot of impressive performances from TJ Long and Matt Barretto. John Becker looks like he has another really good squad on his hand. You tweeted about this team. What do you see from Vermont?
Yeah, I got a chance to watch him play a couple times. I saw him play in the championship tonight, and then I also saw them play the early game against Charleston when they did have the comeback. I just love the depth of this team, the versatility, the way that they can score. Obviously, they played a tight game against Liberty. The final score may not even indicate how close it was. It was a tooth and nail game.
It was like a 2-point game.
Yeah, it was literally, it could have went either way, all the way down to the wire. Liberty was able to make some clutch plays down the stretch to get them the victory. But Vermont's going to be right there when it's all said and done. They'll be better from this game. They obviously made it to the championship. Love the ability to be able to shoot threes. They have more athleticism, I think, than a typical Vermont team, so they can do some different things as far as how they can defend and how they can attack the rim. But I just love the fact that they have all the pieces that you need. They didn't really score it in the paint as much as they may have wanted to today, largely because of Liberty's defense and how they are able to defend and kind of keep you out of the paint. But I really like the Vermont team. I think they're going to have a chance to make a run when it comes to March time. They've been one of the more dominant teams in college basketball in the last, I think, decade or so since they've really gotten it going. And so, I look forward to seeing what they continue to do. And I'll kind of take it. You talked about Princeton a lot. We'll dive into more of these teams, but just kind of reading off the numbers, as you can see, Princeton, Western Carolina with a monster week. You see Irvine, we talked about their top 25 win. Weber State was a little bit higher, but they took a loss, but they also beat a really good Yale team in a top 25 matchup that we
The
had.
MTE was really good. That was Colgate, Gardner-Webb, Yale,
Really good.
and Weber State. Like, those are 4 legitimately good mid-major teams. Gardner-Webb didn't quite make the cut here, but overall, like, those are 4 teams that are really high-level programs that have been in the tournament
Yep.
before and that I expect that we'll talk plenty about as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, all of them are ranked except for GW, Gardner Webb, and they got some wins out of the event themselves, so proving that they can get it done. Um, yeah, so just a really strong list we have here. I'll let you take it kind of from Long Beach and UNCG.
Yeah, I mean, Long Beach obviously going and beating Michigan. That
Big
was
win.
one of the more surprising wins of the non-conference slate in my eyes, because you look at what Michigan was able to do against 2 really good mid-major teams already
Yep.
in UNC Asheville, who won the Big South last year, and Youngstown State, who won the Horizon League regular season title last year. They steamrolled both of those teams. The games were not even close. There was a noticeable difference in athleticism and size between those teams and Michigan. So I expected a lot of the same against Long Beach, who has a lot of talent, but Marcus Sahonis goes and drops 35 on
Yep.
Michigan. And we're talking about a dude who was at Washington with Jaden McDaniels and Isaiah Stewart. Like, this is a dude that's been in college for a minute. Like, McDaniels has signed like a 4-year, $180 million contract since
With
then.
the Wolves,
Like,
yep.
yeah, Sahonis has been in college for a long time. And he goes and puts on this performance. Long Beach, UC Santa Barbara's going to be back to this poll pretty soon, I would imagine, because AJ Mitchell returned against Lemoyne. They were able to take care of the Dolphins pretty handily. I think UC Santa Barbara will be fine long term. But Long Beach State, I mean, this is not a team to sleep on. They have Lucina and Abubakar Traore down low. No relation between the two, but they have the same last name. Jadon Jones, AJ George, a really strong wing core right there. And you have Messiah Thompson, Issa Silva, and Marcus Sahonis as your starting and 6-man guards. That's a really strong top 6, and I expect Long Beach to really compete. They won the regular season title a couple of years ago in the Big West. I think they'll be right there once again. They showed why against a really good Michigan team. And you have UNCG, like you said, beat Arkansas. Colgate at 16, part of that
Yep.
really tough MTE. 17 Eastern Kentucky, always consistent. 18 McNeese State. That's another one I kind of want to get into a little bit. That game against Western Carolina was
Yeah.
one of the best mid-major on mid-major matchups we've seen all season, because that was, like you said earlier, tooth and nail. That was down to the wire, as down to the wire as you can possibly get. I mean, DJ Richards hits a shot to tie it up, 30 seconds left. Bontarius Woolbright goes over, isolation, hits a mid-range jumper, does a Dame time celebration. It was Bontarius time for
You
Western
said it was
Carolina.
definitely Vonteria's time.
Yeah, I mean, well, as soon as he got the ball, and I was like, all right, he's not a shooter. He's not a three-point shooter. I don't think he's made one all year. So I'm like, he's going to drive. Is he going to drive and kick? Is he going to go to the? Is he going to go to the rim? I wasn't sure what he was going to do, but he pulls up, hits a mid-range jumper, and he's just so much different than any other really good guard in college basketball, because he doesn't shoot, but he's 6'5", all of 6'5". He's strong, and he's such a smart passer. He dropped off a couple dimes, and I was just like, a lot of dudes can't do this. He's a special talent for Western Carolina, and I expect him to be a legitimate contender in that SoCon with UNCG and Furman. And then
Yeah,
we're moving
he
on here
was
to
SoCon player of the week the
yeah,
previous week. So
yeah,
definitely a big performance.
probably
And
to do
we
so
talked
again,
a little bit
maybe.
about the matchups that have happened. There's been a lot of mid-major Cinderella top 25 matchups, and those are
Hmm.
something we're going to continue to highlight because we want to be able to celebrate when these teams get to play each other. It's great when they beat high majors. It's great when they beat Power Five. It's great when they beat AP top 25 teams. But we want to definitely keep highlighting those matchups that you talked about that we've had with Liberty and Vermont just tonight in the championship of the Myrtle Beach Classic or Myrtle Beach Invitational, and games like the one we talked about just now. But there's also been others. We
Hmm.
talked about Weber State and Yale. We talked about Colgate's matched up already. MTSU and Western Carolina's had a couple big wins. So
Yeah.
I didn't mean to jump in there on you, but yeah, I
No, you're
think it's
good. You're
important
good.
to keep talking as we're celebrating the mid majors and we're covering mid major basketball. We want to make sure we highlight those matchups as well. as we keep going. I think you were at MTSU.
Yeah, MTSU at 19. 20, Evansville. Want to ask you a little bit about what David Ragland's been able to do there
Yeah.
so far. 5 wins last year. They're already 4-0 this year. How's he been able to turn it around so quickly?
Yeah, one of the teams that we'll talk about too when it comes to later, when it comes to breakout teams, they've done a phenomenal job. I mean, it's so hard, but he's an example of what we talked about. What I love about college basketball right now is you do have the opportunity to flip a roster really quickly. There's 12 new players, 5 returners, a handful of those are walk-ons. If you do the math, there's only 13 scholarships in Division One, but yeah, just incredible the numbers that they're putting up right now. We had a chance to sit down with Coach Ragland this week, and he'll be featured in one of our interviews. But they're averaging over 80 points a game. They've played a team that was in the tournament last year and 2 like conference opponents already
Mhm.
in Miami, Ohio, and Ball State, and they've just been absolutely dominant. They're winning by an average of 30 points a game. They're getting it done on the defensive end, the offensive end. So I'm excited to see what they do. There's a huge matchup coming up this week, actually, against UT Chattanooga, which is just now new in the poll as well at
Mhm.
21, who's also undefeated. So we'll get a chance to see more. But I have a feeling because the way that Evansville been able to do it, I have a feeling that they're going to be around when it's all said and done this year. They just have one of those teams. They're averaging a high number of assists at 16, really turning people over as well and keeping people to 35% shooting from the field. So they're doing it. They're doing it on both ends of the floor. So I'm excited to see what they continue to do and glad to see them in the poll. Portland State is off to an incredible start, 5-1. I know they lost tonight in a game this evening, but they've really played really well. Coach Colburn's really led this program to a place to start at that kind of in a Sunbelt program to be 5-1 at this point in the season because you have to play so many bigger conference schools. That's really hard to do, and they've scheduled well. They've been able to play well, and then rounding out the top 25, UTEP, IPFW, and UMass Lowell. UTEP was able to beat a ranked team that was without AJ Mitchell, of course, which
Mhm.
does matter. But they look like the best team that Coach Golding has had since he's been there. New Conference USA that's wide open, so they'll have a chance to really compete there. Excited to have them in the top 25. IPFW and UMass Lowell have also snuck some big wins. I'll let you end out with those, and then we'll kind of dive into our next topic.
Chattanooga, another team over there in the SoCon. I just always love what the SoCon does because they always have a lot of teams that can win that league.
Right.
We've seen some dominant teams like Wofford that year that they were an 8 seed. Obviously, we had Furman and Chattanooga the last couple of years, but this league feels really wide open. Furman's really good, of course. JP Pegues, Marcus Foster had a pair of 30-point outings during the Myrtle Beach Invitational, but you can't sleep on a team like Western Carolina or a team like Chattanooga who was able to go to 4-0 today with the win over Tennessee Tech. They won against Louisville, which isn't the most difficult feat, but Texas almost lost to them earlier.
Okay,
So, hey,
Louisville,
you win
Louisville
big.
looked really good tonight against Texas.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really good for their standards isn't saying much, but they went over there and they beat Louisville pretty handily. And what this Chattanooga team has is a great head coach in Dan Earl, great offensive mind, and his top 4 scorers: Honor Huff, 16 points per game; Miles Che, a freshman, 14 points per game. That's a name to watch if you're looking for mid-major freshmen. He has been fantastic in his first year at Chattanooga. Jan Zedek, coming over from the transfer portal at Pepperdine, a really skilled forward in this system, always seems to have an impact. And that's exactly what Zedek is for Coach Earl. And then Sam Alexis, a double-double machine, 13 points, 11 rebounds per game, and 3 blocks per game. 22 points and 15 rebounds against Tennessee Tech. He had 16 and 11 with four blocks against the size of Louisville in the ACC. Like, we're talking about one of the dudes that's going to be a force in the SoCon this season. He added a little bit of weight this offseason. He was skinny before, added some weight. He's stronger, elite shot blocker, great rebounder. Sam Alexis is going to be a monster in the Southern Conference.
Yeah, that's our top 25. And then sneaking at the bottom, UMass Lowell snuck a high major win. I believe Georgia Tech, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
Almost beat Arizona State, too.
Yep, played really well against Arizona State. That was today or yesterday, 2-point game. They ended up losing. So, yeah, that's our top 25. We always want to dive into shouting out those. Let's talk real quick. We don't have this on the schedule, but you're adept in depth enough that you can handle a little bit of a curveball. We
A
talked
little bit
about
of
mentioning these. We talked about
improvisation.
mentioning these things before. We did not plan it for this show, but let's visit the four conferences real quick that are the mid-major conferences that are not in our poll. The highest Ken Palm rated mid-major conferences, which would be the A10, the AAC, the Mountain West, and the Big West. Let's just pick one team from each conference. Let's start with the Mountain West and then go through. I'll pick out Wyoming. I'm biased towards them. I get a chance to broadcast their games and see them up close. But I think similar to what we talked about with David Ragland, and I think you can make the same case for Colorado State. They were at the bottom of the league last year. So
Yeah.
in one year they're going to the tournament. Mountain West has four bids the last 2 years. 1 year they're going to the tournament. The next year they're at the bottom in the cellar. They just both teams have struggled, Wyoming and Colorado State. And then this year they're leading the standings. Colorado State hasn't lost a game. They've scored 100 in a game against a Division I opponent, Wright State, who was in our top 25 the first week. And then they also and then Wyoming played really well. They beat College of Charleston, and they also beat
Yep.
Furman, if I'm not mistaken, this
Hmm.
week, and have played really well, shot the ball well. Have had some key additions. Griffin, I believe, Sam Griffin
Yeah, Sam Griffin from
has really
Tulsa.
been getting buckets as a transfer. And I just love the fact that Linder is able to Linder and Colorado State both. So Wyoming and Colorado State both. I picked one. I picked two instead of one. Kind of happened fast. But yeah, I think both those teams. Just again, that's the beauty of what happens now with the transfer portal and being able to bring in players, being able to reload. And the guys have both proven that they can coach. And now the fact that they're able to be back at the Mountain West, even if it's just for this period of time, I think both those teams are here to stay. And who sticks out to you in the Mountain West, even if it may be the same teams?
I'm gonna go with Nevada. I think we're seeing a team that can really compete with New Mexico, compete with Boise State, compete with San Diego State for that Mountain West title. 4-0 start to the season for Nevada. They won against Washington, who looks a lot better than people expected over there in the
Right.
Pac-12. And Nevada has a lot of talent returning with Jared Lucas, Keenan Blackshear, Nick Davidson down low. They did lose a lot of pieces. Will Baker moving on, and they also lost a few other pieces, but Nevada has those two guards. And when you have two really good guards like Lucas and Blackshear,
Yep.
you're going to be able to win a lot of games in the Mountain West. I expect them to be back in the tournament because that offense is fantastic.
Yeah, good pick. Good pick. Let's go with the A10 next. The A10 has been on television quite a bit. They've had some success. One of our another top mid-major program. They're not a part of our poll, but let's at least give one shout out to one team. I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I'll go with VCU. It hasn't been an easy start to Ryan Odom's tenure over there because they've had some really competitive games against a lot of teams that we talk about, like a Radford.
Right.
The other day, they had a really close one against Seattle. They've had some really tight battles. This has not been easy for them. They lost to McNeese, but they've been able to win games when it matters. 3-1 so far. They don't have Sean Barstow, who was out with a broken foot, I believe, or broken something. I think it's a broken foot. But they've shown to me that they have a lot of fight. They started pressing really hard against Seattle at the end of the game the other day that led them to come back. Max Shulga, I'm telling you, that guy's an NBA player. 6'4", can shoot it, great playmaker. He's from Ukraine. I love his game. He's going to be a big time player nationally, not just in the A10. He was at Utah State with Odom last year. And then Toby Lawal is a guy that really impressed me the other day against Seattle. 6'7", but he's long. He's athletic, made a couple threes, great rebounder and defender. That's a guy I think is just only going to get better as he gets more reps in college basketball. And then you have Zeb Jackson, who's been around in college for a minute, Michigan transfer. I think VCU's been quite impressive to me, even though they've had some hardships here early on. But where are you thinking the A10?
Yeah, I think it'd be hard pressed not to shout out Dayton. Obviously, they didn't play the way they wanted to against an elite Houston team, but
Nobody
yeah, I
plays the
just
way they want against Houston.
yeah, I don't think Houston gives you a lot of choice oftentimes in playing the way you want. That's what makes Houston and Kelvin Sampson teams who they are. But yeah, just to get to the championship, I mean, obviously Santos has kind of been some of the talk. his improvement from being a guy who averaged just 2 points a game and shot 16% from three to now being a guy who's making game-winning threes.
Mhm.
That's huge. And just like the way this team has played, and they're I think in the almanac picked to win the A10, but
Yep.
back again, and they look really good. And I think they'll be better from playing against that team in Houston. But they did not have an easy road in this event. The Charleston Classic, not an easy event by any stretch of the imagination. So they had to earn every win, every step of the way. And I like what I saw from Coach Grant and his squad in the A10. Let's go AAC. Who's sticking out to you in that league? A new league, by the way, and 6 new teams. So it may take some
I
time to almost remember who's in that league.
I have a feeling I know where you're gonna go, so I'll not say them. But UAB has been really standing out to me. Early in the season, they lost their first 2 games against Bradley and Clemson by a combined 3 points. So 2 games they easily could have won if one shot went a different way. And then they go over and beat Maryland, who's really struggled so far this year. But Eric Gaines has really shown a lot as the primary guard in Andy Kennedy's system with Jelly Walker out of eligibility. Eric Gaines looks like one of the better guards in college basketball so far. Javian Davis has been an absolute stud down low. I think UAB's shown me a lot so far. I think they could be really competitive in this league. Obviously, you have FAU and Memphis and North Texas, but UAB belongs in that top four conversation because of what Eric Gaines can bring night in and night out.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of stick with familiarity. I've been able to see 2 teams play in person. North Texas, obviously, one
Yeah.
that's people are familiar with being really good, and I just think shout out to Coach Hodge in his first tenure as a head coach, Division One, was down to the wire with St. John's and very easily could have won that game. And then same with LSU, but and then dominated today in the game against Towson. But yeah, I love Aaron Scott. I love this team. I love Reuben Jones. How many games he's won as a guy who's been in the program, one of the winningest players in um, North Texas history. But I'm going to actually step aside a little bit more and go with SMU because I think they're picked much lower. People don't expect them to have the team they have, but played really well against an A&M team. They're 3-1 already, and they have Dayton this upcoming week after Thanksgiving, so that'll be a great test to be able to see those 2 teams play at home in Moody Coliseum. But the addition of the transfer guards that they've been able to pick up along with the bigs. Just a faster teams. They're playing one of the fastest paces in the country as far as their pace of play and much more guard play to help Zurich Phelps, who's already one of the more talented players in the AAC. So I like what I see from SMU and Rob Lanier's team. I think they will definitely be a team that will finish in the top half and possibly even the top half of the top half, so the top quarter. I think they have the talent to be able to do it. They have the identity to be able to do it. They have to be able to stay healthy and get better. But and then we'll end lastly with the last league we haven't talked about yet, which is the WCC. We know that St. Mary's has struggled a little bit. I think they will get it going. Obviously, Gonzaga's the power in this league. Who outside of those two has stuck out to you?
Santa Clara for sure. I think they're probably the second best team in this conference, to be honest with you. St. Mary's has a lot of issues, and we're not going to get like expansive about it
Yeah.
in this show because focus on the smaller ones. But Santa Clara, they have a lot of talent. Uh, they lost a lot of talent with Pajemski and Carlos Stewart, but they added some good guards. Johnny O'Neal, a really versatile stretch four for them. And Carlos Marshall has really come into his own after missing most of last year with an injury after transferring from Tennessee State. Christoph Tilley, a really solid 7-footer down low. So Santa Clara, I'm expecting them to finish in the top three of the conference at least.
Can you talk real quick about Santa Clara actually having NBA players the last 2 years? Can we just visit that really quickly?
I mean, it's pretty crazy if you think about it. Like they have Jalen Williams, Brandon Pajemski. You're going from one NBA guy, which Santa Clara pretty much never has. I think Williams was their first draft pick since Steve Nash. You go from one, then you go and add one from Illinois, and he ends up being a first round pick. And who knows, maybe Adama Ball, the transfer from Arizona, could just be the next NBA guy. He looks really talented. He's been really good so far. He's still really young, even though he's a junior. So Santa Clara, and when you can pitch that to recruits, be like, hey, look at those two dudes who are really good here. They're now both in the NBA. That's where you want to get. We can get you there.
Yeah.
That's where Herb Sendek has a pitch right now.
Yeah, extremely impressive to be able to say that out of Santa Clara too, like you said. Yeah, I think San Francisco is a team that at least has my attention. That they have the enough talent. I know they have the coach and Coach Gerlison. He said, I thought we were a little too volatile last year. We're really good at times, but we were really bad at times too. We're focused on being more consistent. I think they will be more consistent. I think the year two jump will be good for them. I expect Marcus Williams to be one of the better guards in that league, who started his career at Wyoming and then went to Texas A&M and now is there. But yeah, I think just having another year under their belt, winning 20 games, and obviously was really good under Todd Golden when he was there. And I think Coach Gerlison is going to get them going in the league this year. So that's kind of our top four mid-major Ken Palm rated program, or excuse me, leagues that we want to at least mention during the show. And yeah, we'll close out with a few more fun things. But first, we'll get a quick message from our sponsors.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
As you can see there, BetMGM, sponsor of the Field of 68. Now let's continue with the mid-major show here with Sean Paul and Brian Burton. Let's get into some awards picks for the week. What are two awards that you're thinking about here for Player of the Week and Team of the Week from the second week of college basketball?
Yeah, I would say I'm gonna go with actually Team of the Week first. And I'm gonna go. I mean, it's hard not to go with Liberty. I mean, you mentioned them Ken Palm wise. So let's talk real quick. They jumped from where they were. I believe they were around 15 or so, maybe even a little bit lower, 17, and they jumped all the way to 2, and largely because of not only who they've played against, the way they played in those games, and we have factored in that Ken Palm rating being so high into why they were able to jump. Drake and Akron still in the top 4. They have not lost, but Liberty, yeah, just a team that, defensively coming with that mindset from Virginia. Richie McKay's consistently had a elite winner in an elite program, and they've stepped up leagues now. They're going to be in Conference USA. They're easily the favorite right now to play in Conference USA to be able to win and cut down nets. I do think La Tech getting that waiver for their big man transfer from Texas Tech does give them a great chance to contend and gives them some elite talent and some rim protection along with Isaiah Crawford. So I think that we'll have challenge, and there's other good teams in the league. We have UTEP that just jumped into the poll, top 25 poll just this week. But Liberty looks really good. They look like a team who really understands this time of year, what it is that they're trying to do, who they are, what their identity is, what their roles are. They obviously can shoot the ball really well, but they just make things hard for teams defensively. I think that, again, they're Virginia light, if you will. They take a lot of that same makeup, that same identity, There's not a lot that's flashy about watching this team. Although I did like the young fella. Sorry, I don't have your name off the top of my head. I'm gonna look it up in just a second. But I
Caden
did like
Matheny.
the young. Yeah, I knew Sean. I should have just asked Sean. What
Yeah.
am I doing? I should know better. I did like the clutch, the little mixtape version, and he laid it up and left his hand up, let everybody know, like, yeah, we do this. So they got a little bit of swag, a little bit of sauce. They got the long hair, don't care with the headbands. Sean would fit in well on his team because he doesn't have to have the height, and he can wear his headband and his
Exactly.
long hair and look
I'm
good.
cool with
But
that.
no, this Liberty team is legit. They're for real. They could easily be in the top 25 at some point in time this season because of the
They're gonna
way.
get some. They're gonna get some votes
Yeah,
in the AP pool for sure. Like the next one that comes out.
no question. What about you? Who looks good for you team wise?
Yeah, I mean it's been an interesting one. I touched on them a little bit earlier, and I'm gonna go with Western Carolina. And we're talking about a team here that hasn't had a lot of success over the last 2 decades. But now you have Justin Gray stepping in. He is going to get this program where it wants to be, and that is winning a SoCon title. And I really think they can do that because when you have a guard like Vontarius Woolbright, who is the best guard and player in the Southern Conference, you can go and win yourself a league. 19 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. We're talking about a dude that was a transfer from JUCO a couple of years ago. He's now in his third season at Western Carolina. And the way he's able to manipulate defenses, read ball screens, drive in the lane, and kick to the shooters, he just affects the game in so many different ways that you can't always just see on the stat sheet. Like, you got to watch the dude and be like, all right, this is why this guy is what he is. And they
Right.
have wins over Notre Dame, Middle Tennessee, McNeese. Like, those are three tough games. And Woolbright was awesome in all of them. He is a triple double threat every single night. And what it comes down to, though, for this team is can the shooters, Trey Jackson, who's only shooting 26% from deep this year, but he's at 42% last year, and Russell Jones Jr. is at 52% right now, and he was at 34% last year. If those two are hitting on their shots that are created for them by Woolbright, this team is going to be really difficult to stop because teams are going to double Woolbright. When he drives, they're going to try to get into the lane, make sure he's not going to get a drive or a mid range look. So he's going to be able to kick out to shooters. And if those shooters are making those shots, you're going to have a really tough time stopping Western Carolina's offense.
Right. Yeah, well said. And again, they played in some top 25 matchups already. I believe they played in two of them against Middle Tennessee and against McNeese. And have
Yep,
played.
all three teams ranked in the field of 68 Cinderella poll.
Yep. And so just being able to, yeah, I love what I see from this team. They can really score. They can really shoot it. They have a lot of guard play that ultimately helps you win at the highest level when it's time to win. And I'm gonna go back to Liberty real quick. I didn't mention the player that's in the picture of our poll.
Kyle Road.
Kyle Rode is a monster. Already been to the line 15 times, averaging 18 a game, and doing it in such an efficient fashion, shooting 51% from three, 18 to 35, and he's shooting 49% from the field. Yeah, just really efficient as a guy at his size. Doesn't rebound the ball at an elite level, and none of them truly. They don't have a double figure rebound type of guy. They kind of do it by committee. Again, kind of going back to that Virginia style, but yeah, 27 minutes per game, just really, really efficient. Really able to get the ball in the hoop, no matter where he's at on the floor. Can put on the floor, can really stretch it. I think you have to always keep an eye and close out to him. Again, watching that game tonight, I thought he did a great job defensively too because of how they switch and he's able to move his feet. But an active, athletic, talented dude that, again, in this age of basketball where we're playing positionless basketball, he is a huge weapon because of his ability to face the basket and get things done in the paint. So definitely want to shout out him as he will be, for me, the player of the week because this team has had such a monster breakout. So I'm picking him as the player of the week, and I'm also going with Liberty as the team of the week. Who will be your player of the week?
This one is, I'm not going to say fully unexpected because I tweeted about him over the summer when he was playing with the U20 for Israel. But Danny Wolf, a 7 foot, 255-pound big man from Yale, has really burst onto the scene this week. We're talking about a guy that scored 0 points against Gonzaga, 9 against Loyola Marymount, in the Atlantic Slam against Colgate, Weber State, and Gardner Webb, 3 really good programs. We saw Wolf score 15 and 8 rebounds against Colgate, 20 and 9 against Weber State, and he had the game-winning shot today with 21 points, 11 boards, and 4 assists against Gardner Webb. In that span, of course, Yale lost a game against Weber State that went to overtime, but they go 2-1 there, and he was their leading scorer in 2 of the 3 games. The way that Wolf is able to handle the basketball for his size, he's a great passer, which obviously a lot of really good passing big men in the Ivy League. But now, because of his ability to stretch the floor and hit a three, they have so much floor spacing for their shooters, August
Right.
Mahoney and John Poulikitis, to have that space. So they have a guy that can stand at the top of the perimeter and find those shooters, find those cutters. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. And honestly, at this point, I think he is their number one offensive option because you have Matt Nolan, who's really good in his own right at that stretch 4 spot, but he's not a big shooter. He's more of a driver. He's an athletic guy. But you have Bez Mbank, who's going to get into the lane and make things happen as a
Right.
mid-range scorer and point guard. And then you just have so many different options you can go with this offense because when Danny Wolf is going, you have that 7-footer making plays and shooting the basketball. You just have so many different ways you have to stop this Yale offense paired with a really good defense. So you have just way too many ways for this Yale team to win. If they're shooting the basketball well from outside, they're going to be a really tough team to stop. I really think when it comes down to it, and we're picking brackets in 5-6 months, whatever it
Right.
is, I think Yale is going to be the most dangerous team in any bracket because they can beat you both ways. A lot of these teams, like a James Madison, their defense is not very good. They're going to have a lot of defensive struggles throughout the year. Liberty, they can hit a dry spell offensively. I think they're a little more well balanced this year without Darius McGee, who was an amazing player, but they have more balance this year than they had last year. But Yale, the way that all 5 scorers can average double figures, it can be a different guy on every single night, and they have an elite defense. I think they are the most dangerous mid-major team in America.
Yeah, and they got them rated in the top 80 in KenPom as well, which is again impressive for an Ivy League team at
Top
this
60
time of
last
year.
year, too.
Yeah, very impressive this time of year to be already in that kind of position. Yeah, let's transition a couple things as we close. I like to ask, what are you looking forward to look ahead as far as the rest of this upcoming week and the rest of this month?
Yeah, so obviously we're looking at Feast Week upcoming here. There's going to be some interesting matchups, but the one thing that I'm looking forward to this week is going to be an MTE between UNC Wilmington, Murray State, and who's the third team here? I had it up. Western Kentucky. No, Western Kentucky's not it. UNCW, Murray State, and why isn't it popping up now? All right. But UNC Wilmington, Murray State are 2 teams I'll talk about here. UNC Wilmington, we have ranked in the poll. They have a really good program with Takeo Siddle running the helm.
Yep.
They have a great defense. Trezarian White, a really good front court player. You have Nick Farrar, who was really versatile for them last year. He brings that size, athleticism, and strength. And KJ Jenkins, the transfer from New Mexico, really helps open up that offense. So I'm expecting him to be a really big piece in this tournament. Murray State has been really solid so far this year in Steve Prohm's second season back at the helm. You have Robin Perry at that point guard
Shout out
spot. You
to
have
a Field
Brian
of
Moore.
68 alum, right?
Yeah, exactly. Field of 68 alum Steve Prohm. I think he's really going to get things going here at Murray State. Probably this season, you have Nick Ellington, who transferred over from Eastern Illinois, an intra-conference transfer. But he's been great so far. 13 points per game, 9 rebounds, a couple blocks. So you have that front court presence. You have those guards with Moore and Robin Perry. I think this Murray State team is a lot better than what we saw last year. And a big reason why is because of what Ellington brings down low.
Yeah, I look forward to just in general. I love this time of year because you have it's not quite conference play yet. Obviously, conference plays starts in December for some teams and definitely in January. But this time of year, you get to play. You get to see all the MTEs. You get obviously Feast Week is here, including Thanksgiving, which we'll talk about the close. We love to be able to eat some good food and hang out with family and watch hoops. But just the fact, like this week, the fact that basketball was on from early in the day all the way till at night, and you get a chance to see these cross-conference matchups and these guarantee games, if you will, too. But you get to see some of these great mid-major conferences of teams outside of the same conference, which you don't always get a chance to see. It's not quite like the Big 12 and ACC Challenge, where they have these high-level conferences going across. They're starting to do more of those, which we appreciate. But I just love the fact that there's also the tournament time of year where you get to play for a championship. We got to see some great mid-majors play this weekend and really all week through that. So I love the fact that Drake's getting some early competition. They were a preseason number one. They get to play against Stephen F. Austin on Monday, so that's going to be a great test for them.
From Oakland too. I mean, Oakland really pushed them today. So
yeah, good game, and so just excited to see more teams get the chance to play more against more good teams as we keep going forward, and we'll be keeping track of the mid-major matchups. Excited for the teams that are new in the poll, and then keep an eye out from our Field of 68 Twitter and Instagram. Give us a follow along with the YouTube. Give us a subscribe. We will continue to cover and bring new, fresh content. We got some cool things coming from Sean Paul. He's going to focus a little more on the players as he always does, and we're going to do some team breakdown stuff with myself. So we're looking forward to all that stuff as we keep kind of growing the mid-major Field of 68. And lastly, do you have – I don't even know if you celebrate Thanksgiving or not, but do you have anything that you do this time of year for the holiday season during this week? Or do you have any big plans upcoming?
I'm gonna just hang out with family, of course. And this Thanksgiving's a little bit, if you're still listening at this point, we're almost an hour in, but this is going to be the first Thanksgiving for me without my dad. So it'll be a little bit different this year. Of course, obviously throughout my life, he's been the one cooking everything, but he's not here anymore. But he's here in spirit. So I'll have to continue the Thanksgiving traditions going that he ingrained in me from a young age. So it'll be a bit of a sad time, but a good time in a lot of ways too.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean Paul's pops. Will be with him in spirit during this holiday season. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'll be with my family. It'll be a little bit different for me on my end this time. So last year we came all to Dallas. I had some games to broadcast in Texas at that time. So we kind of all got in the car and drove, did a road trip, and stayed for. Yeah, we just stayed for a handful of days. We were able to catch. I believe we caught Kansas State, Baylor on the way back. That might have been after. That might have been later in the year. We took 2 trips on the road to. During my broadcast season, but this time it's pretty much just me solo. I got my youngest at home, my 2 oldest, and my wife are in California visiting family. So it's just the first time we'll do Thanksgiving in separate places. But when ball is life, it's kind of what we're used to. We're either all together on the road, maybe we're together at home, or maybe we're in 2 different places. But it'll be fun. I got some great games coming up after Thanksgiving, and excited about those, and just excited to be able to kick back and watch more games and keep staying tuned in. So we appreciate you guys tuning in to this latest episode, and we look forward to continuing to cover the mid-major content with Field of 68. Until next time, we will see you soon, and be safe, and enjoy some great